All right, let's dive into something that's both legally complex and deeply personal: family property. We're going to explore a process called partition, which is basically what happens when a family has to divide up shared assets, even the stuff that feels, well, completely indivisible.
You know, it's a situation a lot of families eventually face. You share a home, a history, all this property. But people grow and paths diverge. So, how does the law handle the incredibly delicate task of separating everything without just breaking it all? That's the real question we're digging into today. Okay, so first things first, what exactly is a partition? Well, to really get it, we need to look at the two major schools of Hindu law because they see it in fundamentally different ways. And this is all in the context of what's known as the Hindu undivided family, or an HUF, a unique legal structure for a family descended from a common ancestor. What's so great here is that we're looking directly at the source notes that map this all out. You can see the two major schools right there, Mitakshara and Dyapaga. And this isn't just some abstract legal theory, It has huge real-world impact because Mitakshara law is followed in most of India, while Dyapaga is mostly seen in Bengal and Assam. And this is the key difference, laid out perfectly. Under the Mitakshara school, partition is a two-step process. First, there is a severance of status. Think of it as just officially declaring you want to separate. Then, later on, comes the actual physical division of property, drawing the literal lines. But the Dyabaga school, it's much more straightforward. For them, partition is just that one single step, the physical division itself. So let's drill down on that severance of status. What is it really? It's a declaration. It's that moment when a family member clearly says, I want to separate and take my share. It's a fundamental shift in their legal status, and it happens before a single brick has been moved or a single acre has been measured. So we've covered the how, but now let's get to the what. What property can actually be divided up among the family members, the co-parceners, and maybe more importantly, what can't? Now, the first rule is the most important one. Anything you've earned or bought on your own, completely separate from the family's joint funds, is yours. Period. It cannot be dragged into the partition process. That's your individual property. End of story. But when we start talking about the joint family property, that's where things get complicated. The law actually has a list of things that are considered indivisible. We're talking about items that are naturally communal, or that would basically be destroyed if you tried to split them up. And here are some of those things. It's a mix of practical necessities, like the family well or the main staircase everyone uses, and items with huge sentimental or religious meaning, like family heirlooms and shrines. I mean, after all, you can't exactly take a saw to a staircase, right? This brings us to a really logical question, doesn't it? If you can't split these essential things, how in the world can the final division ever be fair to everyone? It's a real practical puzzle, so how does the law solve it? Well, it turns out the law has come up with three pretty clever and pragmatic solutions to make sure everything is adjusted fairly, even when you can't physically divide an asset. Let's break these down. The first and simplest option is to just keep using the thing jointly, or maybe work out a schedule to take turns. If that won't work, option 2 is to give the property to one person, but then its value is basically deducted from their total share, so the others are compensated. And then as a final resort, you sell the property and just split the cash. And that third option, to sell and share, isn't just some informal agreement. It has serious legal backing. The Partition Act of 1893 actually gives a court the power to order a sale if a physical division just isn't practical or fair to everybody involved. So the bottom line is, there's always a legal path to a fair outcome. Now, let's zoom in on one special category that has its own very unique set of rules: the family's religious property. For things like family shrines, idols, and temples, the rules are incredibly strict. They can never be divided or sold, full stop. Instead, a court will usually give possession to a senior family member, but, and this is crucial, everybody else keeps the right to access it for worship. Sometimes they'll even set up a rotation for who holds the idol. The main goal here is to preserve the sanctity of the religious object above all else. Okay, that was a lot to cover. Let's just quickly run through the most important takeaways from all of this. So, the really crucial points to remember are, first, partition can mean two things: either just a change in legal status or an actual physical division. Second, the law gets that some stuff just can't be split.
Third, there are always legal solutions to make it fair, whether it's by compensating people or selling the asset. And finally, sacred property like family shrines plays by a whole different set of rules, where worship comes first.
And that leaves us with one final, bigger question. The word partition sounds so final, so much like division. But when you look at how the law tries to find these fair and practical solutions, you have to wonder, is this really a process that tears a family apart? Or is it maybe a necessary tool that allows each person to find their own path and their own peace? It's definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.